I know this is from a few years ago, but it's still something that people talk about. Judy Murray tweeting, It's not fair at all. Protect women's sport. Listen to the facts, the scientists and the medics. This is wrong. You look at Twitter, in light of your recent win, there are people saying things like Hailey Davidson is destroying women's sport. What's your message to them and the impact their words and rhetoric is having on your life?
Yeah, the one I always find interesting is people with daughters. Because, from my outlook, when you're a parent, the one thing you should be telling your kids is, go out there, you can conquer the world. You can take on whoever. I've got a half-sister, and when she was growing up, my parents were telling her that. They weren't going, no, you see that man down the road, you'll never be as good as him, but try as good as you can. I always find it interesting when people with daughters are, oh, you're ruining my daughter's life. And it's like, well, why aren't you telling your daughter she can go conquer the world?
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So trans golfer Hailey Davidson has made it to the next stage of the qualifying tournament for the LPGA Tour. This person has admitted in the past that male athletes have advantages over females.
Single day before work, both my days off. This is all I've done my whole life. It's not like I magically picked up golf out of nowhere and it was like, oh, because I'm trans and I was born male that I'm magically a good golfer. That's not how any of this works.
For a lot of people, because you were born a man, you clearly have an advantage. Do you accept that?
Honestly, I 100% agree. The men do have advantages. Say you get a trans person on hormones for a year, no surgery, nothing. Of course, for the most part, they're going to have an advantage.
People tend to often point to studies, and those studies show that it is an undisputed fact that men are physically stronger than women.
Oh yeah, agreed.
And therefore, people will look at you and say, surely and clearly, it is obvious to see that you would have the upper hand as you're playing against other women.
And I would agree if that were me, say 5 years ago. I've started transitioning 8.5 years ago, and as much as I, wish I could have played back then and wanted to play, 2 years after transitioning, it's clearly unfair. I think my whole philosophy behind all this is I don't believe trans people should be banned from sports, but I do believe there need to be guidelines in effect.
Apparently it's different for Hailey because Hailey has had the surgery. So Davidson finished in the top 95 female golfers and is closer to going to the LPGA Tour, taking the rightful place of an actual female. Davidson finished tied for 42nd at Rancho Mirage, shooting 4 under par and well off the pace of leader Ashley Mene, who was 16 under. I don't understand a word of what I've just read, but it seems to be clear that Hailey believes that underperforming or not doing as well that day makes you more of a woman. How insulting.
In Florida and nationwide, transgender participation in sports has suddenly become more controversial. Hailey's heard the arguments.
Do you believe you physically have an advantage against some of the other women you're competing against on the golf course?
Nope. And this is the argument I love is people say I have an advantage. The woman, Perrine, I played against, she outdrove me all day. So again, what advantage do I have? I played another tournament last week where the cisgender girl I was playing with outdrove me all day with a 3-wood.
The competitors that you beat at your tournament, their reaction to you winning was what?
Congratulations, and the fact that I did something based on my ability, not based on who I was. And the only negativity I get is from people sitting behind their keyboards and sitting at home.
So Hailey hit back at critics, labelling them conservative media, even though plenty of liberals are against this, because this is simply common sense. Men should not be competing in women's categories. Martina Navratilova is a liberal and is very much against this whole thing, even though she's voting for Kamala, but whatever. So Hailey had this to say: every year I have been playing at Q School, the players have gotten longer and longer to where I was being outdriven by 40 yards consistently in the final round yesterday by one player. Honestly, I love seeing it though, especially since there is a massive lie out there that I am outdriving everyone, which is just so very far from the truth and reality. Clearly, conservative media needs to give these amazing female athletes way more credit rather than belittle them and their capabilities, all in an attempt to attack transgender athletes. But there's one thing that we are incapable of doing. Women are incapable of having male bodies and the physical attributes that come with having a male body. We shouldn't have to rely on a man having a bad day or being a bad athlete to be in with a fair shot. We shouldn't have to rely on you not performing well for us to be in with a shot at winning or progressing further. This person also implied that women are against male athletes competing in their categories because of their athletic failures. Remember, this is somebody who has admitted that men have advantages over women when it comes to sports, when it comes to physical capabilities. But now, if we're against that, it's because of our athletic failures. That's why we're against trans athletes competing in women's categories. So on Instagram, Hailey said, "I will never understand athletes who blame a transgender competitor on their own athletic failures. If you don't take accountability for your failures, then you will never actually be good enough to make it." So who's belittling women now? Eventually, these people always show their true colours. You've gone from appearing a bit more reasonable by saying that, yeah, men do have advantages over women. You've admitted that. To now belittling female athletes, putting the women down, simply because they want a fair competition. The very thing that Hailey accused conservative media of doing. Sex-based categories are not based on ability, they're based on biological sex. That doesn't change due to surgery, due to hormones, due to the way somebody dresses. But the women Hailey's competing against have won titles, have won tournaments on their own merit, not because they crossed over into a category that they don't belong in. They have been successful while competing against other women, while competing against people of the same sex, something that Hailey failed to do. It certainly isn't about being good enough, because these are the top female golfers in the country. What it is about, though, is never being male enough. We're never going to be male enough to rightfully compete against male athletes. That's why categories exist in the first place, something that Hailey is well aware of. If it wasn't for categories, female sports simply wouldn't exist. So in order to protect those categories, we need to make sure that they remain based on biological sex, that they remain based on reality, not identity, not how somebody feels, and certainly not by somebody's desire to escape their mediocrity. Nobody's claiming that Hailey is some exceptional golfer that nobody can beat. But what we are saying is that Hailey is male and therefore doesn't belong in a women's category. So another person to weigh into this and to respond to Hailey with common sense was Riley Gaines.
It's just not right, and kudos to you for fighting again for little girls that will become young women like my daughters. I appreciate it. Transgender golfer, meantime, Hailey Davidson is who basically say she shouldn't be doing this. I will never understand athletes who blame a transgender competitor on their own, and she does use this phrase, athletic failures. If you don't take accountability for your failures, then you will never actually be good enough to make it. Riley, what's your response to a statement like that?
I didn't understand that competing at the highest level in women's golf was a failure. My response is a man telling a woman that she will never be good enough to be successful used to be correctly labeled as misogynistic, but now society, the Harris Biden administration, and certainly what we could expect from the Harris-Walz administration, this is what they call progress. The irony of a mediocre man who couldn't hack it in his rightful category. He was a mediocre D2 golfer, never winning any awards. So the irony of this mediocre man who couldn't, again, hack it in his rightful category, essentially telling women to just train harder, would be comical if there weren't real consequences. And so to just very plainly reiterate what the LPGA stands for, it stands for the Ladies Professional Golf Association. But what we have seen from the LPGA over these past 2 years, their policy has been in place for many years, is blatant discrimination against women. Again, utterly regressive and deeply misogynistic. That's what I think of this. I think Hailey Davidson, he even went on to post more really, again, harmful comments just like this on his social media yesterday. And so I'm not surprised. This is the same narcissism that we see from people like Will Thomas, for example. So can't say I'm shocked, but nonetheless, it's disappointing.
Yeah, it's definitely like they're baiting people just to try to make a point.
Very well said there by Riley Gaines. As she rightly said, these are the top female golfers. You don't outperform your category and advance to another category and get to play with the men. That's not how it works. Sex-based categories never cross over based on ability. They remain solidified based on biological sex. And ex-female golfer Amy Olsen had this to say on X. Unfair. These women have worked too hard and too long to have to stand by and watch a man compete for and take their spot. Great to see Amy standing up for women's golf there. Then let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Like, comment and subscribe. Take care of yourselves and God willing, I will see you in the next video. Memberships are new to the channel. They are now open. So if you want to join the membership for some extra content, membership lives, and some more personal posts, click the join button, either on your phone or on desktop. And I look forward to seeing you over on the memberships, if that's something that you're interested in.